actually did have kingdoms starting by about 400 AD, just before that, and then the final one, the Shilla Kingdom, getting going 527. And by 612, China once again reunited. China had been broken into pieces for its very longest period of that 260 years. China was disunited in different kingdoms fighting each other for 260 years. That was really good for Korea, because China just left them alone, although refugees from those wars did come into the Manchuria area and start blending in. But 260 years. Then, a big problem for Korea, China reunited. In 589, one guy in China conquered everybody else and made it one empire again. He didn't have to do that, that wasn't necessary. Just like the way that Europe was once unified by the Roman Empire, Europe was united, then it broke up into different countries, and many people, many guys in Europe tried to unite Europe again as one empire. The whole Holy Roman Empire thing started by Charlemagne, and for the next 1,000 years, up to Napoleon Bonaparte, people tried to make Europe one empire again, but they failed. And Europe remained different countries with different languages to today. As China could have been like that. China could have been 12 different countries fighting each other and having peace or whatever, and developing different languages, different cultures. Could have easily been that, but it wasn't, because of one man, Sui Wen-ti, who united the whole thing again. 589, and then that was a pretty, his son invaded Korea, 612, and made a big war, and Koreans fought like hell with a much smaller army, less than 10% as many soldiers as the Chinese had, but they won. They won. They played guerrilla warfare, just like Vietnam against America, just like Iraq and Afghanistan today against America. Even the big superpower army can be defeated by a small force if they're local people on their side and they know the territory. They did this, and that's General Ulchi, General Ulchi led the Koreans to victory and kept Korea's independence. Otherwise, Korea would have been part of the Sui-Tang Empire. Would have been part of this, but he won. General Ulchi. That's why we have Ojiro. Ojiro subway stations, Ojiro, the big avenue in the center of Seoul, the Green Line subway, Ojiro. That's why that's the general who defeated 1,000,000-man Chinese army. 1,000,000 Chinese soldiers invaded Korea at this time. And they were wiped out, defeated, utterly destroyed. It's amazing. Yeah. General Ulchi did that, and that's why we have Ojiro and subway stations. And the reason why it's named there that way, the Embassy of China is just on the alleyway, offside there. In the alleyway, the Embassy of China technically is on a subsidiary of Ojiro, and they make the Chinese write that on their address. They have to say Ojiro. Koreans are kind of like that about their history. They are not forgiving and forgetting. They like to remind the Chinese once in a while that, hey, you know what happened. And then again, China, the Tang Dynasty, this time Tang Dynasty of China, tried it again, 660 to 68, invaded Baekje Kingdom on the southwest. We still have a few historical relics of that. The Chinese army was there. They defeated Baekje, but then Shilla came and fought them. The Shilla army under the famous General Kim Yushin and later his son, and they defeated the Tang army and drove them out, again keeping Korea's independence. Otherwise, history would have been different. China was a real superpower in both of these times. Then, nothing until 1950. And you know what happened there. In October 1950, China invaded Korea to interfere in the Korean War, and they kept the Korean War going for another 2.5 years, and then they supported North Korea until today, and they still support North Korea, keep North Korea alive, continue to keep Korea divided. They did that. But in between They never did. And that's pretty amazing. They respect China and Korea, respecting each other as older brother, younger brother relationship from 700 to 1900. Roughly 1,200 years, 1,200 years. China never did that with any other country around it, you can be sure. They hardly ever went a century without fighting them. And such, Korea and China did not fight for 1,200 years. Instead, they had a pretty good relationship. Both of them understood what was going on. It was not an equal relationship. It's not equal, of course not. China's 50 times bigger. And it's like saying Jamaica should be equal to the United States. You know, it's just not. It can't be. Or Puerto Rico, for that matter. Such. They respected each other for what they were. A small kingdom next to a giant empire. Korea was independent, free. Korea could run its own affairs. China was just kind of older brother, kind of watching over and controlling diplomacy. Relationship with foreign countries. But you see, there aren't any foreign countries, hardly. They were controlling Korea's foreign dealings, but with who? All there was Japan. Both of them hated, and then the Manchurian barbarians were the only ones to really deal with. Korea does not have a complicated diplomatic history in most of its time. Right. This actually happened. Now, Korea's always had a king, recognized China's emperor. You understand the difference? Kingdom, empire. King, emperor. Wang, and Huangje. You understand? Okay. Now, the difference, you understand the difference. An emperor is the king of the kings. First among all kings, he's the king over all kings in some part of the world. Theoretically, even in the world. The entire world, in theory, but in practical reality, one place, Europe or Central Africa or Middle East or South Asia or East Asia, one part of the world, one emperor, controlling all the kings. Other kings, there's a king of Tibet, king of Burma, king of Vietnam, king of Mongolia, king of Korea. Under that, they all bow to the emperor and send a gift every year, send lots of nice gifts, and they get some gifts in exchange. It was kind of a way of trade, and not exactly equal, but beneficial to both sides. Korea's always accepted that. Korea's always said, yeah, we're a kingdom. We have a king. Right until the very end, they accept that, and the emperor is in China. We bow to the emperor. Koreans always understood that, and that way they could live in peace. As long as Koreans kept saying, we're a kingdom, we have a king, they're at peace. If any of these people, Tibet and Mongolia, if any of those people said they're an emperor, they promote themselves